leg between Borussia and PSG 1-0 fit well into discussion about the weak side of the bracket. PSG lost the first half against due to radical caution and experiments by Luis Enrique. Dortmund allowed a bunch of chances in the final stretch, which could have been catastrophic due to a switch to a five-defender formation. Borussia Dortmund lined up remained unchanged without any surprises. Terzić simply duplicated the combination from the first match. PSG started with Gonzalo Ramos as a pure forward, and that influenced Kylian Mbappe's position. Now he started on the left flank, and that's his favorite place on the field. Other experiments involved tactical mechanism rather than personnel. PSG lost the first half due to Enrique's experiments. Again, in PSG's attack, they formed 3-2-4-1. In the first match, Nuno Mendes played as the left center back. Now he often moved forward, while Fabian Ruiz took on the role actually center back. In practice, an even more significant change could have been Mbappe's use on the left flank. Here it was easier for him to receive the ball. PSG didn't capitalize on this. Jadon Sancho off the ball work deserves mentioning, either covering the pass line to Mbappe from the left center defender or promptly assisting Ryerson. Formally, the left side of the field is more convenient for Mbappe than the center of attack, but convenience turns into an advantage if Mbappe has space. Options for combinations or at least regular contact with the ball in the left half space. This is a solid side of top qualities. The problem was the opponents neutralized all of these directions. In addition to contracting Borussia, PSG had coordinating problems. For example, here Mbappe and Mendes are in the same zone while the half space is ignored. This positioning gave them fewer options for combinations or maneuvers where one makes a distracting move and the other breaks through with the ball. Also, these greatly affected their interaction. PSG first organized the structure and only then intensified it. This made the team predictable to the scheme. Placing Mbappe on the left created another potential problem who causes the zone when defending. This function was taken on by either Fabian Ruiz or Gonzalo Ramos or no one. Due to Borussia's low possession, which was partly due to the score and flow of the match, this zone was not used often. It remained quiet zone. And Borussia switched to five defenders, almost turned into disaster in second half. In the 67th minute, Terzić replaced Sancho with Nicolas Zule. Earlier, Adeyemi was replaced by Marco Reus, and Borussia was left without a speedy threat in the counterattacks and with three central defenders. Following the substitutions came the most obvious period of PSG's dominance. 16-2 in shots and 83 possession during these 30 minutes. PSG shot at the goal more than in the entire rest of the match and did not allow Borussia to counterattack. Well, the question remained, would there be enough time and luck to transform the endless flow of moments into goals? There wasn't, but the loss of control of is the mere fact of such a question of Terzić merit. In the first half, Borussia adjusted situation to a five-back formation, but the frequency and details of the changes were completely different. Borussia didn't face a kind of parked bus, but rather sit in a mid-block. Initially, there were four defenders in the formation, and midfielders were situationally pulled out to press the ball. Only when PSG had the chance to deliver the ball into the opponent's third, Sancho dropped as the fifth defender, and Dahoud ran into to fill his position, and Borussia balanced PSG attacking quite well. Such a plan allowed them to contain PSG and not resort to parking a bus after the adjustments for the final stage. Borussia immediately reorganized to 5-4-1 formation and sat deeply. PSG found themselves in the threatening positions right away and could involve more player in attack, so Terzić changes hit both defense and gave the opponent additional options to attack. To complete the picture, a 5-4-1 formation with a boss is more static and less energy consuming in terms of adjustment. Yeah, it could be an intention to be more static from Terzic. Perhaps he knew that the players wouldn't last for the whole match and at an intense pace and tried to act primitively but less consuming. But even this assumption only partially justifies the coach. There was no need to deprive the team of all counter-attacking threat and speed up front. The final stretch could have been more balanced, assuming Dortmund's boss at sharp speed attacks. Unfortunately, this wasn't the case. Borussia just got through the end game. Set pieces, a game within the game, both teams created threats from set pieces. Teams intensified from set pieces no less than from open play. The only goal in the match was scored from a corner. PSG most frequent strategy was short play plus improvisation with maximum options. PSG turned to this approach in the second half and it worked better than simple crosses before halftime and just with two shots on target. Dortmund's strategy was delivered to Hummels, who breaks away from the group of the players. But partners create an individual duel for him, preferably isolation against Lucas Bertoldo, and Borussia had fewer attempts, but this plan was evident in most everyone and was eventually realized. Two facts perfectly characterizing the feature of the confrontation are the following. In two games, PSG had six shots on target and nine clear goal scoring chances. Definitely a lot for a team with zero goals. Talk about bad luck are definitely make sense. All this threat PSG created in their second halves. It doesn't cancel the thesis about bad luck, but a team doesn't have a good starting plan and receives less sympathy. We already knew that PSG has strong players who can create individually, but what else is there? Indeed, there is no need to sympathize with such a team, but it's also not worth overrating Dortmund. It should be praised for the progress through the season and such unique results, but the performance in these specific matches should not be overestimated. They prepared well and punished in the key moment, but both times lost control and relied on luck. Terzic didn't help in those moments, perhaps even added problems to his own team. Dortmund season itself is further proof that anything is impossible in football. Even reaching the Champions League final while being just fifths in the Bundesliga. And now a few words about the best, by far, team this season. Real Madrid defeated Bayern Munich 2-1 and advanced to the Champions League final. The match featured not only a dramatic ending with Hasselu decisive goal and a refereeing scandal, but also intriguing coaching movies. Real showcased its main quality, tactical versatility. Bayern deserved respect for how long they held on and forced Real Madrid to bring out new and new tool one by one. And both aspects needs to be analyzed. But let's clarify a question that will inevitably arise in the comments for this video. What does Matthias de Ligt disallowed goal mean in the context of analysis? Matthias de Ligt's post-match words were clear. The linesman said to me, "I'm sorry, I made a mistake, but what goes good does that for me?" It's a major scandal and refereeing blunder. The failure here isn't just the goal being disallowed, but the early whistle, which deprived VAR of the option to review, took away a goal from Bayern, and denied Real the chance to fully play out the incident. While important for refereeing errors and disputes, this has little significance for tactical analysis. The fundamental principles is never to fit the analysis to the result, and it means giving the team as much praise or criticism as their game deserves throughout the match. The winner isn't always the better team. If that happens, it's important to honestly discuss it, of course, choosing words carefully and maintain respect, but without distorting the match content. I may make mistakes in evaluation with these principles, but I always adhere to them. One advantage of this approach is that late goals change the result, but not the content. There is no need to rewrite everything. If the goal had been allowed, it would have led Bayern to extra time, but it would have changed the fact that Bayern didn't surpass Real Madrid and even equal them in the game. In fact, by content, Real outperformed Bayern in three different modes. Bayern was lucky to hold on until the end. Of course, in a single match, any chaotic outcome is possible. Bayern could have fell on 1-0 or even made it 2-2. That would have been a display of resilience, not a gameplay advantage. Bayern had isolated successes, but Madrid players significantly better. I felt necessary to remind about this approach and discuss how it see this match in advance. The analysis is built on the match content. I know some of them audience might demand not content evaluation but a beautiful narrative of the main emotion. I respect this request, but there are other formats. The main emotion of this match was scandal, cancellation, injustice, maximum sympathy to Bayern. um, I understand their feelings, but we're limited in, and now we have to move to tactical details of the match. The match narrative was primarily influenced by the host actions. They were the leading team at different stages, and Carlo Ancelotti team tried on three different roles because of Thomas Tuchel moves. They forced him to do that. Let's delve into each of them in more detail. The first phase of Real Madrid is controlling top team. This refers to the entire first half, and Madrid spent this period as the dominant team, but without excessive speed. They attempted the size to control the initial phase, they control the process of advantage, and hide the wing areas in the opponent's third. To achieve control, 3 plus 1 configuration was used in the initial phase. Cruz dropped to the position of the left center back. Most often, when in possession, Madrid lineup looked like 3-1-5-1 formation, but the 3 plus 1 radio was the most regular. The players higher up received a lot of freedom. The key character of this stage was Toni Kroos, obviously. The Real Madrid playmaker had freedom and controlled the game from his trademark zone. Against Bayern's 4-4-2 defensive scheme, Madrid had an advantage in one player. Tony was too often left unmarked. In the first leg, he received special attention from Thomas Müller. Ultimately, Cruz found a way to influence the match, but for that, he had to move to the right side of the field, less familiar side for him. And yesterday, however, Tony easily dictated the rhythm from his famous dome. With Cruz freedom, Madrid had the most effective ball progression mechanism. In attack on the left flank, an overloaded strategy was used. Sometimes everyone except Carvajal gathered on the left side of the field. This setup laid the groundwork for combinations, and that's a trend mark from this Real Madrid. On the right, potential shapeness across the other after switches. Guess who executed this reason? Sure, Tony Cruz. Madrid controlled the match, regularly peeked into Bayern penalty area and limited the opponents well. There were no clear-cut chances. They created several excellent opportunities, and that's an absolutely logical attitude. If you can score like this, great. If not, everything is still under control and you can open up the game later. That's exactly what Ancelotti did after the break. And the second phase of Madrid was revealed after the halftime. I would call it the Masters of Chaos. The game significantly changed immediately after halftime. Now, Madrid didn't organize for methodological attacks but moved the ball forward much quicker. This implies more risks, turnovers, and transitions, but also provides sharper attacks opportunities. And Vinicius Jr. became the target for accelerated deliveries. Here is a typical attack from this period where Cruz doesn't wait for the team to settle but quickly passes to Bellingham, who delivers the ball to Vinicius. Vinicius fights himself against Kimmich. He constantly tested him and mostly came out on top. In this episode, the Brazilian will go solo and lead to a dangerous shot. In the first half mode, a similar attack would have been constructed absolutely differently, and Cruz would have dropped into the back three, Bellingham would have overloaded the flank, and the team would have made more preparatory passes to ensure everyone was positioned right. In this setup, Vinicius regardless got past Kimmich and entered the penalty area. Teammates tried to help Joshua, but often Vinicius poisoned after them. This approach implies a decrease in a control in favor of chaos. Quick ball progression also means less control in case of potential loss, and Real, perhaps more than any other team in the world, understands this point. They acted with the inclination towards acceleration, but almost never exceeding speed. Madrid created more threat in this mode. However, the approach itself assumes that the game opens up on both sides, and Bayern goal came precisely from an episode where Real Madrid quickly developed an attack without attempting to settle optimally and was not prepared for the loss, took this risk in the opponent's third. After losing possession, the flanks were exposed and only Cruz was left to meet the counterattack. Not a directly lethal situation, but the skills of Kane and Davies elevated it to such a status. Bayern's goals logically stemmed for changes in Madrid's game. Yet it was thought these changes that Real could have scored first, and were clearly closer to doing that until that point. And therefore, the third phase of Madrid is revealed. Kings of the onslaught. In the final stage of the match, Madrid loaded the penalty area with the maximum number of players, while Bayern kindly minimized the counter-attacking threat and set deeper. In this moment, the distinctive features of Madrid are quantitative risk, psychology at the Bernabeu, and the Bernabeu factor. Only the first element relates to tactic, but such an image of Real Madrid is too frequent to ignore these advantages. When a team does this couple of times, it's hard to draw the line between psychological and just luck. When a team repeats it multiple times, the line draws itself. It's need to be considered. Ancelotti sent Camavinga, Modric, Brahim, and Joselu into the battle, and each substitution meant a more attacking profile for the player coming on. Tuchel sent the team a different message, and after his changes, the fullbacks covered the midfield flanks while Kim played as the left back. The team tried to maintain the 4-4-2 formation, but the content was categorically defensive. In practice, the Munich side often revealed to 5 or 7, 6, or even 6 defenders. The downsiders of the approach were to the positions of both wingers, making it difficult to launch counterattacks. It came even harder due to the quality of players. Only Davies excelled in attacking spaces, but with such a setup, there were not many opportunities for him. Quite similar to the mistake that Edin Terzić made against PSG, but he only got XG, but Madrid knows how to convert. Real Madrid could press, saturate the penalty area without significant risks of being countered. The only sharp Bayern attack happened after a corner. Davies was acting as a provider there and couldn't open up higher himself. Ironically, Pavlovic had to make the breakthrough. It was precisely at that moment that he suffered a minor injury and stayed out of the game for the episode in which Real equalized. Bayern's sudden discovery is Kimi as a Raumdeuter fullback. Apologies for the pompous name, but it seems to be most accurate description of Joshua's role in Bayern's attack. He didn't manage to accept a significant influence on the course of the match, but the idea was extremely interesting. Let's note that it was interesting, not necessarily high effective, and let's try to delve into it deeper. Kimmich started on the right defensive flank, from where he shifted into his support zone. The opponent's first half space or opened up along the flank. He had freedom but no constant direction, so it's not just enough to describe him as a false fullback, it's a bit wider. He chose it based on reading the situation, and his teammates tried to adapt. Here is Joshua in the supporting zone together with Conor Limer. Moving higher, here he opens up in the opponent's support zone. He runs into the left side of the field, and there is a space and an open passing lane. And here he opens up along the flank again, precisely at the moment when their space is available. Raumdeuter translates from German as like interpreter of space. This was Kimmich's job, definitely. It's not just about positional variability, but also about the timing of openings. He read the situations and appeared in areas that were most logically advantageous to expose. A fullback is in such a role is not just a rarity, but a unique spiceman. Kimmich definitely had the intellect to open up correctly in the zone, and Real wasn't ready for all his movies. But unfortunately, they didn't always notice him, and his actions, even his teammates, didn't lead to a worthy contribution. It's a raw but extremely intriguing idea, but it's Tuchel's basically last competitive game as a Bayern head coach. So let's see what's gonna go further. In terms of content, Real Madrid outperformed Bayern at all stages of the match and in all scenarios, but Bayern was really good to make as many difficulties to this Real Madrid as possible. But they are simply a much better team. This Real Madrid is simply much, to my mind, it's simply a much better team than any other in the world right now. And football doesn't have to be logical. In this match, there were moments capable of steering the encounter in a completely different direction, and Bayern could have made it to the final. But Madrid was better. They were better, and still, it depended on this very moment. In football, such things happen. But also, we have to know that normally Real Madrid is the team that reigns through that.